the people came to know what sort of punishment will anyone get if in case they involve in such sort of incidents. Now, even mob lynching is becoming more common here, especially in Tamil Nadu. Even this has to be followed carefully, and people should know the consequence if they involve in such kind of an incident.
Well, I want to come back to you, Nipun. Do you think that people don't know the consequences of killing, of murdering someone, of lynching someone? Do you think, let me add another dimension. I feel that this is some sort of a disorder in people. They don't intend to kill, but then they end up killing, and then they feel it is fine because their cause is relevant. And now that people have started getting political patronage also, they feel that it is acceptable, right? They will get away. Do you think this is a disorder more than anything else?
I think the problem is the belief that you are the judge, juror, and the executor.
Yeah.
And
second, the reason why? Poor conviction and poor law and order management. That is the reason.
I believe one of the more important reasons is the normalization behind it.
What do you mean when you say normalization?
Normalization in the sense that if there are 100 people doing the same incident,
then they may be right.
Then of course they may be right, but there's also another thing that goes in their subconscious, which is that there will not be somebody to stand on the witness box and point us out. Because if there are too many people, then you can't point out faces individually. So that in the heat of the moment, if there are 200 people who immediately get hold of somebody and do it, that somewhere in their subconscious is a pertinent way to get out of the clutches of law. So I believe that is always there, which to justify that if 2 people do it, it's easier to get caught, but if 200 people do it, then there's very difficult to point which one of those 200 people have done it.
Now my point is, tell me something, Mr. Swaranjit Sen, if a new law were to exist, and if it were to acknowledge all these things, if it were to work on the lacunae, for instance, a lot of people gathering and them being nameless and faceless, don't you think that a new law acknowledging ways of punishing these people would make sense, would carry weight? Of course, your point on implementation is well taken. Well, it is well taken.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I'm not against a new law, but I'm against the implementation which is not there. And the effect of implementation goes if the judgment does not come in time.
But for instance, if I were to ask you,
things. Firstly, implementation. Yeah.
No, Mr. Sen, sorry to cut you short. If I were to ask you, for instance, under the existing law, the first FIR that would be registered, if 100 people were to be involved in a mob lynching activity, will be against, quote-unquote, unknown assailants. Correct? Unknown assailants. Now, if a new law were to exist, do you think that do you think that a new law will create provisions where the complainant will have to name the people that he feels is the perpetrator?
Well, I feel that there is no need for a complainant in such cases. The police should take up the case suo motu, register it, and then go ahead with the investigation. There is no need for a complaint. I would not insist in it, and I would say that the police should go ahead with it. And then they can, through their investigation, they must find out who all are involved. It's not so difficult these days with cameras and all that. Without all these facilities, we used to still be able to identify the persons who have indulged in all these kind of crimes. So now it is much easier. And as I said, there's no need for a complainant. It's a suo motu case that the police should register and go ahead with it. But I'm surprised that, these
I think Mr.
cases,
Sen,
they have to take a certain amount of time. Yeah. Yes.
No, I'm just saying that, the point that you're trying to make is about their existing technology for the police to discharge its duties. My point is, the technology always exists. CCTV cameras are now there. In fact, these people are brazen enough to film it themselves. See, do you realize that these are not normal people? It's not like they fear the law or its consequences. These are people who are filming it themselves, And that's why I call it a psychological disorder. Now my point is, at a larger level, do you think a law needs to exist to acknowledge this? For instance, I don't think any law at this moment has provisions of trying to reform this lynching mindset. I don't think a law exists or a framework exists in which this lynching mindset can be reformed. Yes, Nipun now. Yes, Nipun.
Under section 153A of the IPC, whoever incites others to commit violence also will fall within the ambit of it.
Yes.
And if you read that with 149, it also talks about unlawful assembly. So that unlawful assembly could be 5 or more people. The moment you put both these provisions together and read them along with murder, you can book as many people as you want under these provisions. Second thing, as the learned DGP was already, former DGP was pointing out, everything from fast-track courts to police suo motu taking cognizance and registering cases already forms part of the Supreme Court's 11 points, which are mentioned in detail in the judgment itself in lynching. The Supreme Court has categorically stated that you must depute police officers, but there's something that I would in addition to that say. I say that you already have certain provisions you have already identified under the Gunda Act, etc. If these are habitual offenders and repeat offenders who now in the guise of 100 people will give effect to these acts of violence, then you can segregate and earmark these specific people under the Gunda Act, and you just ensure that they report to police station every twice a month or thrice a week or whatever it is, and you ensure that these people, you can keep these people under a radar of sorts. So that will ensure that all those incidents of, all these untoward incidents could be kept at a bare minimum. So I'm talking more along the lines of preventive strategy rather than
I agree with your preventive strategy, but let's quickly go across to Ghulam. Ghulam, here there is an assumption, when Nipun says that you are trying to reform those who have that criminal mindset, there is an inherent assumption here that those who are committing this are hardened criminals who have a tendency or propensity to do something like this. Now, in most of these cases that I see, I feel that this is a bunch of highly motivated or demotivated or whatever first-timers who are carrying out this crime. There are many onlookers who are participating in this. Not many of them have a criminal record. So that is why I am saying that this is a disorder. These are not necessarily hardened criminals who would be rowdy sheeters or history sheeters. These are people who may be first-timers or not criminals at all. What has been your experience?
Well, what you say is correct. See, you can't pick and choose criminals here because, as you said, they don't have a criminal background against them in any sort of police station. This happens by itself. When they see something going wrong, they get into the action straight away. And I also wanted to highlight this point. Now, of late in Tamil Nadu, at least in the last 2 years, we have more of northeast population. And an increase, so much of increase in the northeast population, where the language has become a serious problem here. When even I saw the video where this man was getting beaten up by so many people. He was trying to say something, but no one was able to understand what he was saying. Neither was he able to understand what these people were asking him. So this is something which is a fear factor for the people of Tamil Nadu. Even we have, on the other hand, we are talking about mob lynching, but on the other hand, there are so many criminals who have come from northeast and have been a problem for the people of the state itself. Now this is something which we will also have to discuss when we discuss mob lynching, because the language is becoming a problem here.
No, can you explain this again?
As we discussed earlier,
can you explain this again? I don't understand what you're saying. No, one moment. You're saying that criminals from the northeast have come here, and because their language is different, and that is why it riles up people, and then there is mob lynching. Just explain this, please.
That is one way of looking at it. As I said before, language is a problem. Now this person, the man who got beaten up, was trying to say something. He was trying to probably justify himself, and no one in the group, in the mob, was able to understand what he was saying. So what I'm trying to tell you right now is the excessive northeast population in Tamil Nadu is becoming a fear factor here for the people of the state.
I do not agree with you, Ghulam. So basically you're trying to build an argument that people from
that's my
Tamil
point.
Nadu or anyone who is not a Tamilian or someone who does not understand the Tamil language then perhaps will have higher chances of being lynched by a lynch mob as opposed to someone who knows Tamil, because then he'll be able to explain himself in a local language. You know, don't you think that the act itself is criminal? Language irrespective. I mean, what
But the act
language do
is
you
criminal.
need to
No one is
understand that you're
supposed
wrong
to
when you're
take the
beating
law
someone
into
to
their-
death?
Well, I'm not trying to justify the people who involved in mob lynching. That is wrong. Taking law into their own hands is certainly incorrect. Okay. Now I'm also with you. But what I'm trying to say, the other angle of looking at it is, you have this problem where many people from Northeast have come and started involving in a lot of criminal activities. They have killed, they have raped, they have involved in all sort of atrocious activities, which is making people think otherwise now.
Now one moment, I think now that's a very, very dangerous thing or a dangerous line to trudge on. And I can tell you, Ghulam, right now, thank you very much for that tip-off, because I'm going to devote a series of programs right here on India Ahead at 9 to discuss exactly this. I think this is the exact sort of fear factor which exists with Africans in Delhi, right? That all Africans are rapists, all Africans are, man-eaters, all Africans run away with our children, so let's beat them up, right? This is the same mob mentality. Now, Nipun, I want to begin with you. Do you think that this is what needs to be nipped in the bud?
Absolutely.
You see, that's the germination of the problem.
Absolutely. Sensitization has to be there. People must be made to believe that irrespective of which region you are from, what caste you belong to, what religious tenets you follow, what language you speak, you are Indian and therefore the law applies equally to you.
Turn them to the police.
Yes,
As simple
absolutely.
as
And do
that.
not take the
Language
law.
irrespective, if you feel that there is something wrong that they've done or they may do, then as an alert citizen, turn them to the police. Let the police do what they're supposed to do.
In fact, it is your responsibility to do that.
Correct.
Under the law, it is
Correct.
responsibility to not take law into your own hands and to
No, see,
immediately
that
report
is the
it to
biggest
police.
problem here. The police is not acting.
If the police officers do not act on your complaint, then you can even
Again,
kill those
Mr.
police
Ghulam, do you
officers.
see that? Again, see, we are justifying the reason. You are in a way justifying the reason for mob lynching. You are saying, see, police is not acting. There is poor conviction. These people are coming and we assume that they are criminals and they don't even understand our language. That is why some locals are resorting to mob lynching. Do you think that this is a correct assessment? This is exactly the problem
No, see,
that is
there's
being
no-
faced
see,
in
I
many
always
parts of the
believe-
country.
No, I always believe that there's no smoke without a fire. So you're trying to say that are you trying to say that this person who got beaten up was innocent? Can you be very sure about that?
I'm just trying to say that if he was trying to steal a car, first of all, people have no business to lynch him. Secondly, there is no provision under the law,
So what
under
business
Indian
does he have to
law,
steal
under the Indian
something
Penal
out from the
Code,
car?
where the police. No, one moment, Ghulam. If he was stealing something, turn him to the police. As simple as that. Which section of the Indian Penal Code says that if
No,
he
that
is
is what
caught
I'm trying to
stealing,
say. Our
then he
police
should be beaten
department,
to death
after
by the
Jayalalitha's death,
people.
has become.
No, then this is mobocracy.
No, I get
Then
your
you
point,
see,
but
when
what I'm
you
also
start
trying to say is our
justifying
police
mob
department-
violence, then after Jayalalitha's death, suddenly there is a state of chaos in Tamil Nadu, and that's why people are taking law into their own hands. Then, frankly, I feel that this is a law and order problem. This is a massive law and order situation. And now that I speak to you, Ghulam, I'm telling you, Mr. Noel Saranjit Sen, as a former top cop, don't you think that what Ghulam is telling us at this moment is a cause of major worry? Do you realize what is going to happen in Tamil Nadu in the next 1 year or 2 years? There'll be absolute chaos. I mean, anyone who's a northeasterner will be a worried person. There is a natural assumption that all northeasterners are criminals.
Then I'm not trying to say that all Northeast people are criminals, but
No,
there's a fear
one
factor
more.
developing here right
One
now
more.
because that is how
Saranjit,
the incidents have. Yeah.
Yes, Noel Saranjit Sen.
I feel perhaps Ghulam has not been able to, yeah, I feel perhaps Ghulam has not been able to